How's it going, everybody? Josh here from Spawn Fly Fish, and we are going to try and simplify something that is not that simple. Searun Cutthroat. It's a species that I've presented on to clubs. It's a species that I answer questions about every day here in the shop, and it's a species that I obsess over when I'm here and on the water and at the house. So we're going to jump right into things. We have an upcoming film with Todd Moen that we filmed last year in the waters where I grew up. For those of you that don't know, I grew up in Olympia, Griffin Elementary, middle school, high school, and that is home. And I spent an absorbent amount of time on the salt there, learning everything I can about this species. And the species is intimidating, and we get that. And not intimidating like the jetty and things that we've talked about in the past, but intimidating that you look out to the vastness of Puget Sound and try and understand how, when, where do I catch this fish. It is an elusive fish, because there are times where you'll be somewhere and you'll see them, and then you'll come back 10 more times in a row and it's gone. But what we're going to do today, we're going to dive into it and really try and simplify it for you. So across any brand, we're going to start with rod. I personally fish a Douglas SkyG 5-weight. I do prefer the 5-weight in Puget Sound. I know that's not super popular. A lot of individuals like to fish a 6-weight with a fighting butt. I believe that's overkill. So if you have a 5-weight, or if you started with a 5-weight, you're okay. Keep the 5-weight, fish the 5-weight. When you start to bump things up a little bit into that 6-weight range, if you're going to buy a 6-weight, do buy one with a fighting butt and keep that thing ready to rock and roll. And I'll jump next into when that's ready to rock and roll is when we talk about fly lines. So fly lines, I exclusively fish outbound short, floating line. Very rarely do I fish a sinking line. When I do fish a sinking line, it is on that heavier rod, and I tend to lean towards the full intermediate from Scientific Anglers. So the vast majority of my angling experience for this species is done in what is called South Puget Sound. And when I think of South Puget Sound, I'm thinking of Nisqually and south. So a lot of times when I'm thinking about how I'm targeting this fish with these lines specifically is, one, when it's going to sink, I'm fishing in an area from 12 inches to 15 feet of water, and this line had a durability that lasted. It's going to rub against the rocks, it's going to rub against the oyster shells, and everything that is on the bottom in Puget Sound. So that's something that's really, really important to think about. And then the floating line is the go-to for 99% of the time. And in saying that, it's because we're fishing water, again, from 12 inches to 15 feet, generally speaking. You can catch them anywhere, but that's the area that I like to fish the most. So, and then the next tool you will need, unfortunately, hate to say it, it is your cell phone. There's two apps that you need. One is Windy, W-I-N-D. It's just this red wind app. It's free. Download that. It'll give you a forecast as to the wind in Puget Sound. Whether you're fishing from a boat or you're fishing from the shore, it is crucial to know when it is going to be windy. And why I say it's crucial is because the one thing that can ruin a day of fishing for this species is water clarity. And when water clarity is bad is generally when it's really windy in South Puget Sound. The second reason you're going to need your phone with you on the water is because you need to download what is called Onyx Maps. This is going to allow you to understand where there's public access, and most importantly, if you think about the greats or the legends of the Searun Cutthroat game, like Les Johnson, Roger Stevens, and the most infamous Leland Miyawaki, they took notes. And this is something that I have done for years in Puget Sound. And Onyx Maps allows you to pinpoint an area, mark it, and say, weather, tide, wind, time of year, time of day, cloud cover. You can add all of these things that will truly make you more successful in the water targeting these species. It's about replicating success in Puget Sound, and it is important to keep notes. Whether you want to do it at home on a piece of paper or in the app like I do, I think that's very vital. If I ever lost my phone, the biggest worry of mine would be losing the Holy Grail to South Puget Sound. I could care less about any of the other stuff. And then the third reason you're going to need a phone, again, unfortunately need a phone, is because you need to check the tides. And it doesn't matter to me whether you want to go fishing high tide, low tide, incoming, outgoing, but you just need to pay attention to when it is. So if you go to a certain beach and you're fishing the incoming tide and you don't catch anything, try a different tide. I am a big believer in the fact that different beaches fish differently on different tides, but I'm a bigger believer in keeping track of that information. And you'll learn as you spend time out on the water in Puget Sound that over time, this beach will fish incoming, this beach will fish outgoing, slack, low slack, high slack. You know, you'll learn all these different things on how to catch these fish, different times of the tide during different seasons even, and you should keep notes on all of that. So that's one of the, if you take anything away from this video today on the information that I'm trying to simplify this, it is keep track of what you do on the water, and it will increase your success. So the next thing we're going to talk about is leader, and then we'll get to the fly. So for leaders, Searun Simplified, Maxima 12-pound ultra green. You can use 10-pound too. I wouldn't go up to 15, although this is not a leader shy fish. You will be able to have a lot of success fishing for this species without a tapered leader, without any fancy tippet. It is a very simple way to do this. Just use 7 to 9 feet. You can change the length of the leader depending on the depth of the water you're fishing, and you will be good to go. So you will see that commonly throughout the way I fish for this species, and it just really simplifies things. You don't need a bunch of stuff in your box. Just bring some Maxima 12-pound ultra green. Alrighty, so you got your rod, you got your fly line, you got your leader. The last thing you need to do before hitting the water is have a selection of flies. These are our top flies. Again, we're fishing in South Puget Sound, so North Sound may be a bit different. We don't spend a lot of time out there, but specifically for South Sound, these are our go-tos. We'll start things off with the Steamboat Island Leech. Probably my favorite fly of all time. We tie this for several years now. It has a name of an area where I grew up. For those of you that aren't familiar with Steamboat Island, it is right in the mecca of Searun Cutthroat world. So this is a really cool fly. It's on our jig shank. It's got spawn Simi seal and spawn's fluorescent southern peach marabou. It is a true winner. Next up, the peach bum. Designed by Pete here at Spawn Fly Fish. Again, it has that same characteristics of replicating a ghost shrimp that's going to scurry along the bottom with that single articulation point. It has a spawn football bead, it has some peach rabbit, and it also has some spawn Simi seal on a micro jig shank. Really, really cool fly that is a absolute winner. Must have. If you wanted to simplify things, say you're new to the vise, you want to be able to create your own pattern or create your own fly that's going to do the trick out there, just a standard Simi seal leech. We like ghost shrimp and a hotspot that is orange. This is a phenomenal little pattern out there. It works really, really well when you're wanting a smaller fly with a little bit lighter presentation. If we want to go a little bit bigger, say you're seeing some coho jump, the Spawn Furburger, designed by Lucas, who was previously part of Meat Market Flies. This is a really, really cool fly. Again, it follows that theme of shrimp-like coloration that we have a lot of down here in South Puget Sound. Really, really good fly here. It utilizes one of our spawn heads that's going to kick those materials behind it. Again, stinger style hook, catches any of those short strikes, those nips, especially that are infamous for coho. As far as topwater goes, we don't fish a lot of topwater flies. Topwater for me in Puget Sound is only when it makes sense. It's not something that I use as a searching fly like many people do. You know, this is a fly that I whip out when they are boiling, when we see constant aerial of jumps, of eats, and we really have the species going, whether it's resident coho or Searun Cutthroat. It's not something that I ever start with or search with, but it is something that I will transition to if fishing is nuts. So keep that in mind. A little bit different than those of you that use that as a starter fly. That'd be my personal recommendation for using topwater in Puget Sound. And that Gurgler style fly is definitely the go-to. I don't fish a ton of bait fish, but when we do, we will fish one with a stinger hook. So this is just a simple little fly here. It is a tube fly with a little head on it. Cam Siegler used to use flies like this. He's a cutthroat legend. I think there's some YouTube videos on him if you haven't looked him up. Very, very cool stuff. Roger Stevens, probably one of the least known cutthroat legends who I've got to spend a ton of time with. He really is loving these types of flies. Again, stinger style hook here in the back. Almost all of these flies are sizes 6 to 8, and you can go size 10 and size 4, but that 6 to 8 range seems to be the sweet spot. So now you got the fly tied on, you got everything you need to be successful on the water. So that really brings it all together, and then you're going to think about where you're going to fish, and whether you're fishing from a beach or fishing from a boat. Either way, I'd recommend a stripping basket. There's a bunch of options out there. They do a really good job. In the boat, I find myself less likely to use a stripping basket, but it can be beneficial. So I hope this gave you a little crash course on what to use and how to be successful without giving you all the answers. This is a really cool species because it is one that's going to challenge you constantly. And the reality of it is we don't have all the answers for this fish. This fish is one that'll test you day in and day out. What we will like to do is prep you with a baseline of knowledge to go out there and find success. And that is what you will do if you listen to this video. If you follow what we said, you will have a baseline and you will expand on that and become an excellent Searun Cutthroat fisherman. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. If you did, be sure to hit like and subscribe. And thank you all for tuning in.